All right, buddy. So what's your name and where you from?
My name is Fred White, man. I'm from Queens, New York. Yeah,
Queens.
Queens. Oh yeah, oh
Ain't that
yeah.
where 6ix9ine's from?
No, don't play like
Oh!
that. Don't play like that.
I
Nah,
had to throw it in there,
nah.
boy.
He's from Brooklyn, but he just
Brooklyn.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he don't represent Brooklyn in any type of way, though, man. There's a lot of real solid cats out in Brooklyn too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
man. I know there's plenty of solid official cats out there.
yeah. He don't.
I try. When it comes to New York, though,
Yeah,
people think, 6ix9ine kind of brought the whole New York scene to the scene and shit.
right.
And man, people just need to understand that is nowhere near how cats roll for real. There ain't no, there's a lot of real solid individuals out there, cutthroat cats, and
Yeah.
that have principles, and he's giving off a bad image. You know what
Yeah,
I
he's
mean?
giving yeah, different morals, different standards. Everyone has them, you know what I mean? I mean, here's the reality, right? Is that there's rats everywhere. Let's not get this wrong.
Everywhere.
It's not, the thing is that a lot of people don't understand about that confidential informant being we just brought up 6ix9ine is that there are confidential informants. Yeah, I'm gonna say this right now in every single gang pretty much in New York. Like this, if you got a big gang, there's confidential informants in that gang. And then the thing about the confidential informants, bro, is that they're not dudes that don't speak the same language as you. They're not the dudes that don't walk like you because they couldn't get in that circle. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's dudes that's out here actually actively banging. Is dudes that's really out here actively selling drugs or selling guns and then telling the police where they at. That's a fact. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
for
And
sure.
you can see all that snitching stuff if you ever watch the first 48. You ever watch first
Oh
48?
man, every
Come on,
damn time.
that's my
Just
shit,
watch
right?
any of these
That,
cops, live PD, all of them. They
right.
all drop dimes as soon as
And they
they get
all
in the
drop
back
dimes,
seat.
right? So
I mean, it's everywhere, man. It's in
right,
cartel land. It's
right,
everywhere. You know what I mean?
right.
So,
I talk about
uh,
it. I talk a little bit about it on one of the things is that they actually have right. Here's the actual fact. If you're a federal government, if you work for the DEA as an informant, okay, you can
yup.
make over $120,000 per year because each DEA agent. This is a fact. You can Google
Damn.
this. Each DEA agent is allotted 100 and I think it's 18,000 per snitch. Okay, so these dudes actually have direct deposits, man. Like there's no more jumping in the backseat
It's
of a
a damn
car.
job. It's a
It's
career,
nah,
man.
bro. It's no more just jumping in the backseat and secret squirrel giving. No, these dudes actually have routing numbers, man, accounts, and they get paid by that. You understand?
Wonder if they
So
have to pay
each
taxes on that shit.
I wonder too. But the DEA, if you're an informant for the DEA, you can make over 100,000. Now I know there's people out there like, oh shit, I'm about to call the DEA right now, right? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, I'm about to call them up right now, 100,000. But it's a fact, man. Google that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this is what they do. So these informants are out here, man, and they're out here.
Yeah, they're everywhere, man.
Yes, but yeah, they're everywhere, man.
See,
Everywhere.
see what past 6ix9ine let us down, man.
This is how we starting this off
Yeah.
right away.
All right, man. Look, you got a channel. We're gonna talk about that towards the end.
Sure,
But you talk about prison stories as well, and
sure.
I haven't listened to any of your episodes yet.
Okay,
I want to hear them for the first time on this channel. I like to hear people's story so that my
okay, yeah.
reactions are authentic, and just like my audience are seeing it for the first time, so am I.
Cool.
So
That's what
tell me
I
a little bit about how you got locked up,
Okay.
and I'll let you run with it, man.
Well, I did almost 16 years in the penitentiary here in New York. You know what I mean? I've been getting locked up since I was 14. At 14 I caught an attempted murder. At 15 I caught attempt murder. At 16 I caught attempt murder, and by 17 I was in prison for felony murder. Okay. Now,
Damn.
yeah.
What were you beating them shits?
It was just no. I wasn't beating them. I got YO status, got second chance program. Then I got probation. Right. So but on the last one, the felony murder, there's no such thing as any of that. You know what I mean? So I graduated to the big boys after. So by 17, I was in prison for felony murder. I ended up beating felony murder charges, and I blew to manslaughter, and I blew to a stolen Jeep. Because during the participation of this crime, we stole a Jeep. We stole a certain rapper's Jeep out in Queens. We ain't gonna get into who he was, but we took his
Okay.
Jeep, okay? And my case was kind of weird, man. My case was, see, back in those days, there wasn't really no Bloods, Crips, any of that really in New York, right? So our little gang was basically just the dudes that we grew up with in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? You with me?
Mm-hmm.
So this dudes you grew up with, you guys became labeled as a gang. That's how it was. We would just, running the streets, acting reckless, and this was my destiny, man. I'm here to tell you this was firmly my destiny, 100%. And this was something that was predicted for me at an early age. You know what I mean? Because I was just always just one of those troublemaking kids. I was always one of those kids like say at 12 years old, you know what I mean? I come to the basketball court and they don't pick me or something like that. I was running off the courts, going in the garbage, taking bottles and smashing them on the court. Now nobody plays. Like this is just the mentality. I was just like a different kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is why I do what I do. I try to deter, with my channel, which we'll get into later. I try to deter kids from going down the same path that I did. I try to deter people through my experiences, whether it be through life or whether through prison, to deter people from going going down the same path that I did. That's my life now. That's my destiny. You know what I mean? It was my destiny to go to prison. It was my destiny to do all them years in prison, but it was also my destiny to talk about it. It
Yeah.
was also my destiny to give back so that these kids and these people understand that, there's nothing cool about prison, man. There's
Yeah.
nothing cool about jail,
Hell
which a
no, there
lot of
ain't.
these dudes glorify. A lot of these dudes, Josh, they come out and they glorify their experience. And that's not what Fred is about. That's not what I do. You know what I mean? I do tell some crazy stories and I do tell it, but I tell it in a way that may be shocking to people, but it's shocking with a purpose. It's a shocking with an agenda. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's my message. That's what I'm trying to get across. Yeah, man. So, the New York prison system is a bit different than like Cali's and other places. The politics are a little bit different. There's not too much
Yeah.
of the like the racial things. Like if you're white, you don't have to go with the white boys. You know what I mean?
All right. So tell me, man. Tell me a little bit about uh going in. Well, first off, you caught a murder charge, end up dropping it to manslaughter. I mean,
Right. Correct.
can you speak a little bit on how that went down?
Sure. Sure.
Just just
Okay.
just
So,
briefly, nothing too detailed, you know.
no, I mean I could get a little bit. So anyway, we used to go into different areas. We see somebody, we catch somebody in that area, and we
Yeah.
bombed on them. And it would be the same thing, in my area too. It was the same thing. Like, they would come over to our area. It was one of those things that's still in me, as far as like when I see a car rolling down the block and I see a bunch of people in it, I still have to look. You know what I mean? Like this is in me because this is the lifestyle that I live. So one day, like I said, we had stole, so we had stole a Jeep, right? We had stole this particular Jeep a few weeks earlier, and we just had it in the neighborhood. And we ended up going into this neighborhood, and we seen the kids on the corner, right? So I was driving. I dimmed the lights real low, okay, and we crept on them. They saw us coming. They started to run, okay. Now when they ran, a couple of my people, they jumped out the car, jumped out the Jeep, and they started chasing this one particular kid. When the kid ran down the street and he got hit by a drunk driver, man. Like there was no shooting in this instance. There was no stabbing in this instance. There was no beatdowns in this instance. The kid ran in the street and got hit by a drunk driver. Now I know, I take full responsibility for my actions, because if I did not stop that Jeep, that kid would still be alive. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But one of my main boys, dude I grew up with, we'll call him Dave, right? When we got to trial, I went to trial on felony murder because they said that we tried to rob the kid, and during the course of the robbery, a homicide happened.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the law here in New York.
Yeah.
During the course of one incident, something else happens, you get that felony murder charge. So I went to trial on felony murder, and one of my best friends, you know what I mean, one of the dudes I grew up with, one of my homeboys, was on the stand pointing me out. He just put me in his place. His father was a police. So he just put me in his place, and he said that I chased the kid and I beat the kid and I did all this other reckless stuff. When the reality is, man, listen, it's over with, and I got no problem speaking about it. I stopped the Jeep. That's what I did. right? He went on to, he got immunity, and he right now, the crazy part about this thing, Josh, is that he's a federal corrections officer right now here in New York, in MDC. Right now, he's a federal corrections officer. This particular dude, you know what I mean? So he
Mm.
just reversed it. They gave him immunity, and he went on to live a good life and sent me to prison. He tried to send me to prison for the rest of my life, man. That's what he tried to do. You know what I mean? But again, I beat the felony murder charges because they didn't believe that we tried to rob him, because we didn't. We never tried to rob the kid. And so that's originally what I went to prison for, man. I was sentenced to 7 1/3 to 22 years. And I had a 5 to 15 for the manslaughter in the second degree, and I got 2 1/3 to 7 for the stolen Jeep that we definitely stole, right? And they ran it consecutive. Usually in New York they'll run it concurrent, which means like the 5 will eat up the 2, and it
Yeah.
will go together. And basically, you'll do the 5 to 15.
I
or
never ever get anything ran concurrent.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm like, please, Your Honor, you gonna run it concurrent though?
Please,
No, come on.
Oh,
You know,
right.
I got 90 charges I'm facing, man. You're over here, God.
Right.
That's how it goes, man.
Because you ain't no 6'9", Josh. But anyway, so.
Hell no.
You know what I'm saying? That's what it boils down to. Because
Yeah.
here's the reality: they offered me 2 1/3 to 7 after I had over 2 years in the penitentiary prison in Rikers Island. Wasn't in prison yet, and they offered me 2 1/3 to 7 to tell on everybody, man. But it's not in my DNA. It's not who I am. I took it. I ate it, and I went to trial and I took my chances, man. You know what I mean? And off that 7 1/3, I did almost 16. You know what I mean? Because once you get into New York State prisons, which we're gonna get into a little bit about, once you get in there, man, it's a world within a world, bro. It's a jungle that unless you really been there, it's like hard to explain, man. It's like it's different rules, it's different world. It's serious.
Yeah.
The New York prisons are serious.
I believe it, man. Well, how about we do this, man? Let's attack Rikers Island today. All right. You said you had some pretty damn wild Rikers Island stories. So let's do that, and then maybe on a part 2 we could hit the penitentiary, because I'm definitely looking forward to the penitentiary scene.
Right.
But go ahead, man. Break down Rikers for me, all the way up to your first day getting up in that jank.
Well, because they're 2 different places. You know what I mean? Upstate, the penitentiary is 2 different places. You see, Rikers Island is about 8, 9, 10 jails, okay? And you come across the bridge, you come from Queens, and you come into this island that's literally in the middle of a water, right? And there's about 8, 9, 10 buildings there. And when I went through what's called C-74, Adolescents at War. That's what they called it. You know what I mean? That
C-74, Adolescents at War?
That's right.
Ooh, that shit sounds crazy.
Yeah, there's an old Cool G rap song about that too. C-74, Adolescents at War. So anyway, I came through Rikers Island, and then I realized that all that tough guy shit from the street, all that tough guy stuff from, that I was living, went out the window, man. Because I realized
it does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Because you realize that you're not in Kansas anymore. You understand what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So, I came through and it was just a jungle. And the thing about Rikers Island is that the thing about Rikers Island is back then we were able to have our own clothes, okay? You were able to have your own sneakers. You were able to have, gear. Now on Rikers Island, they give you jumpsuits and slippers, more or less. You understand? Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit different now. And when I was on Rikers Island, there was about 23,000 people. Now there's about 3 to 5 right now. Like, it's not even that. They're closing.
23,000 when you went?
Yeah. That was the average. Yeah, that was the average. Yeah, you can Google it. 1,000%. Yeah, in the 20s.
Holy shit! 23,000.
Yeah, it was the average. That's the average.
How the hell? Hold on.
You gotta understand.
Yeah. Okay.
You got to understand that back in those days, it was a different time. It was a different world. That's why when a lot of these young kids say, you're a little bit older, Fred, you don't really know what's going on, or times is different. Yeah, times is different. Last year we had close to 300 murders in New York, right? In the end of the 80s, early 90s here in New York City, the average was 2,300 murders per year. You understand? It was a whole different era. It was a whole different time. There wasn't cameras. There wasn't people videotaping their own crimes. There was none, there was none of that back then. You understand? So 2,300 murders was the average in New York City back then. Now it's like 300. You understand? So when these young kids start talking this craziness, it's like, how much different was it? My time, my time was wild. You know what I mean? We averaged 2,000 more murders than what it is now. You understand? So Rikers Island was a menace. So Rikers Island, you go through, and just say you go to a housing unit, okay? Now, when you come through the gates, they have like A and B gates, they call. So the door closes behind you. You got the police bubble right here to the right, and to the left is the gates. And when you look in, that's the day room. So as soon as you coming in with your stuff, right, from the little reception, because you come from reception, they give you a mattress, your cup, your toothbrush, whatever you may need, right? They give you your stuff, your roll up, and then they send you to a housing unit. Now, when you go to this housing unit and you come between those gates, everyone's coming to the gate to see who you are, lining you up, looking at you, see who you know, see if you got anything maybe possibly that they want, if if they feel they can take it from you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this was Rikers Island 100%. So you come through, and now what happens is you go to your cell, you drop off whatever you're gonna do. Now you come into a day room. The day room maybe have 50 people in it, right? Now you learn over time that the people who are sitting in the front, they have tables. You can't just sit at any table. It doesn't work like that. You can't just go and just, hey, let me just sit here at this table. That's not how it works. You
in the day room.
In the day room, for sure.
Okay.
You play the wall, you play the back, you see what's going on, because you notice that right in front of the TV, that table, that's usually the dudes who's running the place.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
They got the front row seats.
They got them front row seats. So, you learn that over time. And also those are the dudes running the phones. Because back then, what would happen is, if you ain't know nobody, guys, if you weren't official or none of that, you couldn't get on the phone. They would let you get 6 minutes in the morning. That's it. You could get 6 minutes to call your family in the morning, and you had to sign a book. Okay, so you sign the book, and you get your little 6 minutes in the morning, and then what would happen is, after 5 o'clock, say from 5 o'clock to say lock-in was 11, it's only official dudes touching that phone. You understand? Like, you can't touch the phone. Don't go to the phone. Don't do that. Everyone has their slotted time. Now you might have somebody to come in and be like, you know what, that dude at 6 o'clock, I don't think he official. I want his time. And then what would happen is dudes would actually go to the back, you know what I mean? We call it the Zanzibar, or play the back, and they would go to the back and they would fight it out or whatever, you know what I mean? And you had to hold your time down. Again, it was a whole different world, man. You know what I mean? And razor tag was a big thing on Rikers Island.
Razor tag. Let's hear about this.
Razor tag, dudes spitting them razors out. That's when I first learned, you know what I mean? I learned, dudes took me under the wing, showed me a few things, you know what I mean? Showed me how to hold the razor in my mouth. So, show me what works there, right? Because the reality of the situation is, man, when you young like that, it's like, you're not ready. You're not ready. You're not ready for really what's about to happen, right? So dudes show me the ropes, show me how to do it, show me how to spit razors out my mouth, show me, how to, make weapons. You know what I mean? You make weapons out of anything. You know what I mean? On my little channel, I actually physically show, like the cigarette filter that you know what I mean? Just the filters. We will open them up, and what you do is you pat it down a little bit, and then you take a lighter, and you do the edges. It's on my channel. You got to go see it, man. It's on the edges. You just burn the edges a little bit, and then you pat it down, and guess what? That's a razor right there. Yeah.
Well, you know what? It kind of makes sense, because that shit is it's like fiberglass, right? Pretty much.
Exactly. So when you burn the edges of it and then pat it down real tight. That shit's
like plastic. Yeah.
And it's
damn. I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's not like a scalpel, but it'll. Yeah. It's letting other people know that you about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I remember one of the first incidents I saw, man. This dude, he got like 60 years. He's up in Clinton now still. He's Torres. That's his name, right? I remember him and this other dude, this guard body dude, Shannon. You know what I mean? They was calling him Shy. They was beefing. And
so there's a lot of those God body 5%ers in there.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
that's what it mostly was. Like there was no real gangs. Like you know what I mean. It was mostly guard body
When you were
Muslim.
in there.
Right. Well, no. Well, later on during my years, yes. I'm saying I'm giving you the beginning. I'm giving you the genesis of
Okay,
it.
okay,
You know what
okay,
I'm
okay.
saying?
Yeah.
In the beginning, there wasn't really too, you know what I mean, too many gangs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As I, 8, 9, 10 years into my bid, I've been to jails that were blooded out, cripped out, like it progressed. But
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
the infancy of my time, it was more 5 percenters and Muslims, like the biggest group still, as far as like not a gang, is the Muslims, man. A
Always.
lot of dudes
Always
go
will
up on.
be.
That's another thing, man. A lot of these dudes, they know, man. A lot of these dudes, especially people watching from New York, they gonna understand what I'm saying, man. A lot of dudes go in there and they turn Muslim ASAP.
Hell yeah.
They put the kufi on, start bumping their head, and
And a lot of it is for protection, man. They
that's
scared.
that's exactly what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because they know
yeah,
that the Muslim community is strong in there, man.
yeah. And
Muslim
they ain't
community,
gonna really,
right?
they ain't gonna come at them like, let's say, a gang member would. They're gonna be more
Exactly.
peaceful about it and actually open-hearted towards it.
Right.
And yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I've seen it a million times. All
So
right.
anyway, so Torres, right? So him and the kid Shah was beefing. And I don't even remember what it was over. It's probably something small, man. I mean, dudes, I seen dudes getting stabbed and killed for 25, 50 cents. You know what I mean? So one of the kids, Shannon, was sitting in front of the TV like this, and the kid Torres, I swear, man, this was like one of like 3 days in. He came up, he had scissors, bro, big metal scissors, one here, like he broke them apart. And then the dude was just he wasn't, and he stuck it in his temples from both sides. Bam! So one of them was actually in his head, and the other, like it missed the temple part, but it went through like his eyebrow, bro. I mean,
Stop
like he jumped
playing,
off.
man.
Yeah, man, 1,000%, 1,000%.
In
Jumped off
Rikers, they did that shit,
yeah,
though.
Rikers Island
Damn.
is Rikers Island is a zoo.
Yeah,
Rikers
damn right. But them
Island,
scissors, how do you get them scissors?
I mean,
Shit.
you get anything in there, man. You know what I mean? You got to understand that the police is from the boroughs, man. The
Yeah,
police
for sure.
that all work there are from Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan. So back then, you should be able to, but
Yeah.
you're able to talk with them as opposed to the prisons. So yeah, he fucking both sides of his temples, bro. Bam,